Bom dia a todos. Eu pedi ao Robert para começarmos a sessão, porque acho que é mais fácil detalhar um pouco o que consta desta plataforma. Este evento é uma parceria entre a Enterprise Europe Network e a Tenderio. Eu julgo que vocês já conhecem a Enterprise Network. De todo modo, serão todos clientes da Enterprise para estarem a ser convidados para estarem connosco. É mais uma das iniciativas que nós temos de apoio à internacionalização do negócio. Julgamos, e na apreciação que tivemos desta plataforma, juntamente com a Tenderio, julgamos que é uma ferramenta que pode potenciar a vossa internacionalização, o encontro de negócio e, sobretudo, a entrada em novos mercados. Esta plataforma tem várias variantes. É uma plataforma que é aberta para inscrição, pode ter modelos de crescimento, de utilização através de algumas subscrições de alguns modelos, mas é uma plataforma, sobretudo, que consegue concentrar sobre a égide do vosso negócio, consegue concentrar todas as oportunidades de negócio dos concursos públicos numa escolha que cai sobre o vosso negócio e, sobretudo, sobre a oportunidade que possa ser para o vosso negócio. A oferta pública é vastíssima, como se costuma dizer, eu falo mais devagar porque o Pietro entende, como se costuma dizer, os Estados compram absolutamente tudo e nós não fornecemos absolutamente tudo, temos o nosso segmento. E por essa razão a plataforma ajuda-vos a segmentar a oferta de modo a que vocês possam, ou a procura, desculpem, de modo a que vocês possam responder com a oferta. A Enterprise tem aqui um papel, sendo que a Tenderio é stakeholder da Enterprise. Enterprise como parceiro da AEP, obrigado, bom dia, Céu. O IAPMEI é coordenador deste consórcio, tem todo o apoio em todos os seus parceiros e fomentem este tipo de iniciativas com o stakeholder, que será a Tenderio também para nós, e conseguimos, através quer dos business-to-business que fazemos dos breakage events, quer ainda de outras ofertas dos concursos públicos que a AEP divulga permanentemente na newsletter, quer ainda com estes encontros de stakeholders que cada vez são mais direcionados para o vosso negócio, tentamos potenciar a internacionalização e, sobretudo, o negócio e a entrada do mercado europeu e não só. Eu passo a palavra a quem importa agora, que há de ser o Robert e o Pietro, que vos vão falar sobre esta plataforma, o interesse da plataforma e, de facto, o que ela pode ser de oportunidade de negócio para vós. Robert, you have the word. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Robert from Pedal Consulting based in Slovakia, also coordinating a Tenderio project. Thank you very much for hosting us, and thank you very much for coming. I really hope that in the course of today's discussions you will at least take one interesting thing back home with you. First, maybe I would just like to know who's in the room. So, how many of you are from private sectors? Please raise your hand, like SMEs.
Private.
Okay. Any public institutions in the room? Okay. Researchers? No researchers? Okay. And how many of those who are in private sectors or SMEs already do business abroad? Please raise your hands. Okay, so it's considerably less. How many of you are participating in public tenders in Portugal? Okay. How about abroad? How many of you? Okay, one. All right. And how many of you actually managed to win at least one public contract abroad? Okay, some hands up. Congratulations. It was just a quick warm-up in order to tailor today's discussions to make it helpful for you. What's ahead of us? Maybe Pietro, you can jump in for a second and introduce quickly the agenda, so you know sure. what to expect. We are of course flexible. If you are interested more in some angle or aspect, we can hold it there. Let's make it interactive. Raise questions whenever you want, and it's not just for the sake of fulfilling what's here. We are here for you. So, but this is the suggested outline for today.
Okay, again, to all of you, thank you very much for being here. We are partners of Tenderio as LOBA. LOBA is essentially a web development company. We make visual developments of any kind, so we are in charge of spreading Tenderio all over Europe. And essentially, what I really want to highlight here today is that Tenderio, first of all, is a network, is a partnership, and essentially is a network of bidders. So Robert, during the years, and now through the help of the EU financing, developed a network throughout Europe of translators, because one of the main issues when you have to bid abroad, those of you who already did, is in the requirements, they tell you the bid should be submitted in local language. You know, that's the first high barrier that you may encounter. Moreover, for example, I'll give you an example of LOBA. We found a very interesting tender that was for ESME by developing visual contents. We had almost all requirements for being there, besides having a local office in Brussels. So what we needed, we had all capacities, we only needed a partner to be there in Brussels. So sometimes a foreign tender is really a matter of just a few details for you to be eligible to participate in. And through Robert, I think we are even expanding more and more, even besides European Union. We had recent collaborations with Japan, and moreover, our search engine, which is only a side instrument of Tenderio, allows you to search for tenders just by typing keywords. So, for example, if you have a very sectorial business, which can be coffee, for example, you can search for tenders just by typing the keyword coffee and the jurisdiction of interest, which can be Angola, Africa, whatever. Our search engine will help you for that. We will have some parts of the presentation here covering these aspects, but as Robert said, we would like you to tell Robert what are the main barriers you encounter when you have to bid abroad, so that he can share with you his experience, as he's been working with tenders, public procurements abroad and not abroad for years and years. Even though he's still quite young, he has a broad experience on this. So, at 11 we have the coffee break, and in the morning we'll have an overall presentation of what we are, what we do. And then you will see we'll get more specific on the requirements and tips, hints on how we can help you winning foreign tenders abroad. So I think we can move on, and please excuse us, let's see if we can show you the video of Tenderio.
Well, maybe let's hold it there. We'll show them the video later. Thank you, Pietro. I would like to set the scene with some numbers. Just to frame the discussion and explain, if I may, what is the market out there and what are the probabilities out there. So just the first number, perhaps. I don't know if it's working. Okay.
They're on the board, please.
Okay, but maybe.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks. Every year.
It's a good day today.
Every year, public buyers at the worldwide scale spend about 16% of their GDP on public procurement. In the European Union, it's slightly less, it's 14%, but translating into euros, we're talking about 2.5 billion euros. I mean, it's a huge number. There are a lot of zeros. I cannot really capture it in my mind, but it's 2,500 billion euros spent every year by public authorities purchasing goods and services in order to secure their functioning. Now, as you know, there are thousands of regional authorities, national authorities, public institutions like hospitals or schools, or international organizations, World Bank, EU agencies, you name it. that maybe, and in most cases, seem to be very far from your core business, from what you're doing. But if you think about it, each of these institutions, they need to function. They need to have furniture. They need to have toilet papers in bathrooms. They need to have softwares, and they need to have transport, logistics, and this creates business opportunities for suppliers, for SMEs like us, like us in the room. So there is this big envelope every year waiting to be spent on purchasing. Okay. Now, when we just look at EU, because we have statistics there, in 25% of cases, when there is a call for tender published, they receive only one application. 25% of cases. This comes from 2016. The latest number we found. The average number of proposals received per one tender is 2 to 4 offers. So statistically speaking, it's 25 to 75% of success rate. Not bad. In 2016, and the number is more or less the same every year, about 10,000 tenders are cancelled. And guess why? Because no single offer is received. So they have to republish it again. And when you look at the supply side, just in Europe we have about 20 million SMEs. 20, European Enterprise Networks knows the best, but I think if we can agree on 20 million plus SMEs just in Europe. Backbone of EU economy, responsible for 99% of GDP. So we looked at in Tenderio, and obviously there is a discrepancy. On one hand, you have this big amount of money that is waiting to be spent, that is waiting to be spent for purchasing goods and services from SMEs, which are standing on the other side of the equation, and their core business, their default activities is to make profit and to sell their services and products. And only in 1.26% of cases, actually, SME located in country A participates, not wins, participates in tenders published in country B within EU. Okay. So these are the introductory numbers that I would like to set as a scene. We looked at this in Tenderio, and we tried to understand why is this the case. Perhaps when we tell you the result of our analysis, I would like to listen to you. Why aren't you participating in tenders abroad? If you can just throw keywords, any ideas, any arguments, feel free to do it. Why aren't you participating? You mentioned the language barrier, obviously. It's a big one. What else? Why aren't you participating abroad? Why is it so difficult? Why is this number, in your opinion, so small? Anyone? Yes?
Do you want my opinion?
Yes.
One of the things is you need, most part of the situations, you need someone in the country.
Okay.
Outside Portugal.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's one. Another one is the language, because most of the tenders came in the national language from the country you send the tender. Okay, that's two major situations.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a lot of requests for service, and they want service 24 hours a day, for instance.
High expectations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you have expectations and then the money available, and this is not matching. Yes.
You need people in the country that they ask.
Mm-hmm. Any other reasons why? I mean, you can keep it for yourselves and then jump in later. I tell you the list that we prepared throughout the 10 years of our existence. And I try to use it as an example, our example how we actually develop this list. And actually talking about my example, personal experience, starting in 2006 when I graduated, I was full of optimism, and I started working as an intern for EU-based consultancy in Brussels. And their core business back then was to help their clients prepare offers, proposals to participate in tenders abroad. So they told me, Robert, now you have these dozens of companies, and try to find and prepare proposals for them. Okay, straightly thrown in the water. So what I have to do, at first place, is to identify the tender, just to find the tender abroad. I mean, these were always the cross-border tenders, because simply their clients at that time knew their local market quite well. So I had to identify it. And what it meant back in 2006 is that I had like 23 web pages bookmarked or so, and visited them like once, twice a week in order to see if there is any new tender published. So I had to find it. Often what happened, that when I actually found it, the deadline was in 3 days or in 1 week, which was not enough to prepare a winning offer, because it takes some time to actually understand what is required and to prepare a competitive bid. So to actually identify it on time. Okay, then when I identified it on time, we said, okay, we still have 3 weeks with 1 month, which is a perfect scenario. Then what happened, the tender was in French, and even though I spent 5 years in France, I can hardly order beer in French. So there was a language barrier, for sure. So we cracked the first 3 barriers. We identified it on time, and we did speak the language. Then it starts to be more fun. Once you speak the language, you need to actually read the tender specifications and understand if you are eligible or not. If you meet the conditions, in each tender, we will see it later in detail. You need to understand if what they are asking you to do, you can actually deliver. So if you are eligible. As also Pietro mentioned, and also as a gentleman mentioned there, what happens oftentimes is that you are eligible to certain degree. Maybe you meet 95% of conditions, but you do not have that one reference, or you don't meet the one condition that is requested, and you still don't feel like letting it go, but to go through the application and invite another partner from the consortium and perhaps submit the bid together. So if we were eligible to some degree, we still wanted to find a partner, and there is another process launched called partner search. We will talk about it today. Now, we still have 2 weeks to go. We are eligible, we are a strong partnership. We actually need to, and a lot of people drop there, we actually need to write the proposal, the paperwork. And even now, fast forwarding to 2018, a lot of tenders are sent in big parcels. I mean, I remember first tender, just to save money when we were in Brussels, I was taking my IKEA bag, going with the bus and have it delivered in hand, because it was really heavy. And sometimes they want 3 copies with CDs, and it is just physically heavy. So there is a paperwork. And this is not only printing the papers, but also filling in the papers the right way. So a lot of people, a lot of companies actually drop it there because they don't have enough energy to go through the process. So paperwork and bid writing. Writing part. So now you have written the proposal. You just need to send it. And there are another considerations, the doubts that come into play. And these are, is this tender actually transparent? Is the local player going to be preferred over the international one? You can also ask while preparing the offer, when the last part of the offer, a financial bid. Also, we will talk about it in detail. What should be the size of the offer? What is my competitor? Under which conditions is he selling? I mean, when you're going abroad, you don't necessarily have this set of information. So it's this last element, like transparency, preference of local partner, and basically the not knowing the market in question. So uncertainty of competition. Pardon me my writing, but we have it nicely presented on slides. So, okay, this is our list. We're talking to our SMEs. We've been talking to our SMEs for now almost 10, 11 years. And this list is, of course, well, sometimes confirmed. Someone is stressing other barrier over other. But this is the set of barriers we are currently working with. Now, fast forwarding to 2015. We have evolved. We have prepared a few tenders. So in the beginning there were a lot of failures, but we were consistent. And it happened that now when I was working for this consultancy, sometimes we managed to win, and they also subcontracted us, and we launched the snowball. Now we are in 2018, and I was lucky enough to set up my own company, and currently we are, I would say, the leading performer when it comes to Horizon 2020 projects in Slovakia, and we are also one of the leading performer securing tenders for our clients abroad. By the way, I'm opening parentheses. Then we will go back to this list. Do you know what is the difference? Because we hear a lot of confusion between a grant and a tender. And there is, you have grant and you have tender. Anyone? There is a lot of confusion, and for the sake of this discussion, I would like to make it clear from the beginning. Today's presentation is about tenders. It's the situation where the buyer tells you exactly what he or she wants to buy. They give you tender specifications. So they tell you exactly, they define what they want to buy. Define purchase. And SMEs or suppliers, they basically, they tell you, okay, I will deliver this what you want, and this is my offer. In grant, like Horizon 2020, COSME, Erasmus, grant schemes, they normally tell you the problem. No, we have this problem, offer us solution. And the same purchaser can actually receive a lot of different proposals from different angles, tackling the issue from completely different, by completely different ways. This is one big difference. The second difference is that, speaking of tenders, we can generate the profit. So we can make a profit. Ideally, in grants, you have only co-financing, which can be 100% co-finance. Okay, so that's the second distinction. And the third one is when it comes to IPR. Whatever you deliver under tenders is the property of the buyer. You sell it to them. Okay? IPR is with buyer. Here, what you create or co-create is actually IPR of the seller, the consortium or the partner. So we are talking today about tenders. So we're not focusing on grant schemes today. Our company is helping. The core objective is to help SMEs to internationalize. We do it through 3 streams: grants, tenders, and internationalization. So here we are in tenders. Going back to problems. We analyze this. So why is this number 1.26% so low? Why is it? So we looked at this and we tried to understand how we could actually optimize this, or to some extent make it as easy as possible for our clients. So we actually drew a line and divided these problems into 2 different categories. The first 3 problems could be somehow addressed by software, so automated. And you know by now, I presume, that there are a lot of search engines out there, free of charge, for subscription, covering different sectors, covering different countries, that can help you to identify your tender based on a keyword, or based on sector, based on country, or a combination of these. You are also, this software is sending you automatic alerts, normally by email notification. As soon as something is detected, they send you an email. So the time issue is also addressed. And some of these tenders are actually translating manually the executive summaries of the tenders in English. So you can follow, at least passively, what's going on the market without having to know Spanish, Italian, Swedish, Danish, etc., etc. So the first part is quantitative. Once you go through these 3 barriers, at least currently we believe that in order to address this effectively, you need to plug in human brain. Okay, so you need to actually have the real expert behind that. So in Tenderio, we based it on 2 pillars. The first one is, and less significant one, is the search engine. We are not IT developers, so when we did our analysis and research back in 2015, we came to the conclusion that at that time, the one that was on the market and we liked the most was the one offered by Indian company called e-procurement technologies and their patented technology called Tender Type. So we flew over there, had some negotiations, and managed to get their database and their search engine plugged in to our platform. Okay. So how we tackled the expertise part is that over the years, as I mentioned, when we started working on tenders, we developed a network of trusted partners, trusted consultancies, among which, for instance, Loba from Portugal. And these are mostly the tenders, the experts locally present in the field, knowing the legislation, and have a successful track record in participating in tenders. Not necessarily international ones, but at least in the local countries. Okay, so currently, with the Tenderio pan-European network of consultancies, we have around cooperation with around 40 consultancies. And some of them are less active, some of them are more, but we activate them in case there is a lead or our client is asking to do something in the country of their residence. Make sense? Okay. So in September 2015, Tenderio is born. Maybe I will explain you more by the video now, just to make it a little bit of pause.
Attracting new customers is too expensive, and it has become ever more challenging to identify new deals. Luckily, they both came through Tenderio, a one-stop place for public tenders. On Tenderio, they simply entered a keyword describing their product and immediately found out which institutions wanted to buy it in various countries, right after, Tenderio also introduced them to local partners who helped them to crack linguistic and legal challenges and assisted them to prepare their bid. On Tenderio, they found out who their potential competitors are and what was the size of similar contracts in the past, helping them to fine-tune their financial offer. Thanks to Tenderio, Tom and Mary are now automatically alerted whenever there's a new relevant business opportunity published anywhere in the world. Tenderio. Identify your tender, team up with partners, and bid.
Yeah. So essentially, this is what's IT technology search engine delivered by Indian company called eProcurement Technologies. So we launched it in autumn 2015, and we behaved like a startup under the Pedal Consulting auspices. And obviously, being the consultancy firm, we seek funding for this platform. And we were lucky enough that on the fifth time, we actually tried to recycle the proposal, we managed to secure co-financing, so it was a grant from COSME to support activities that we were doing. So we received grant of over almost 250,000 euros. There was a call for proposals launched by COSME, the European Commission. And there were actually 4 projects, pilot projects, funded within this call. The one is Tenderio, and another one is IPON. They have also a local partner here today, and you will hear about IPON later today. So we are talking to other projects. But what I want to say is that thanks to this grant, a lot of our services were made free of charge. So if you maybe go on the website, I show them the packages, and for the period of 18 months, because we had this dilemma, we had a startup, we had the clients, we were charging them, and suddenly we received the grant, and a lot of things that we actually promised in the applications had to be free of charge. So we had to solve this problem, and we did it by introducing 2 service packages. One is completely free of charge for the period of 18 months, but even some of them will also be free of charge after. That's the left column, and some augmented services that we didn't mention in the application, which are written in red, are actually part of Tenderio Plus. Okay, so here we are. Any questions? So I don't know how many of you are already subscribed to Tenderio or to the free service. Is one, two hands?
I only received the opportunities by email, but I have to say that I didn't have the opportunity to check. This is my opportunity to know.
Can I jump in and ask just a question? How many of you already asked for benchmarking service free of charge? This is a thing that has been, let's say, underestimated from the services we provide, I think. Because benchmark your company with your competitors for free can give you not only the idea of who your competitors are, but who can be your future partners that you may collaborate with and so on. And having this kind of overview, free of charge until we finish our project, I think it's a great added value. So I really suggest you to do this, because I'm in Italy, I'm working in Italy for Global, for this Portuguese company, and when I talked about Italian companies about these services, they already wanted to jump in. Then of course, follow up with people is the most difficult part, because they say, yeah, it's interesting. I told them, inscribe, subscribe, sign in, and they didn't. But we're following up with them. And each one of them said, you even have this bidding laboratory. It's maybe it can be a tricky issue to explain what a bidding laboratory is. But if you had the opportunity to try to submit a bid to write it, to find the collaborators for free, I think it can be a very nice opportunity, not only for you, as a, for example, if you are the CEO of a company, honestly, I don't think you have consulted the human resources and time to properly search every day for tenders, search for partners, and finding the right bid, writing it, making the financial proposals, and so on. So having, a local partner that you didn't know before helping you doing this can be a great added value for your company. And we do this besides the weekly digests that essentially we send you every week tenders that can be suitable for your business. For example, as I said, if you're producing coffee, you type on our subscription for your keywords describing your business, and you will receive all tenders dealing with your business sector within the countries you're interested in. So we even had this recent collaboration with Belling, so that you can even have information on private tenders beside the public ones.
And that's it follows the private tenders, as you may know, follow much straightforward process. There is not a lot of bureaucracy. They're basically asking you to send them a financial offer. So we started the collaboration with a Lithuania-based startup called Billion. Maybe you can go quickly indeed, Pietro, through the project, through the services that are there for you right now. You just need to send us, better what are your expectations through the predefined form, and you can start, giving it a try. So we have access to the search tool. Well, yeah. That's the limited version where it was like a teaser.
It's this one.
So
okay,
basically how it works, if you don't need to be logged in, but you will be able to follow the markets, in English. We can show any of you. Can you please tell us the keyword for product or service that that best describes your activity? We can give it a try and see how it works in demo.
MPS.
MBS.
MPS.
What is that?
Management Print Services.
Okay, so I think we need to. It's not like a Google. You need to play with keywords.
MPS.
Let's see what happens. I don't think it will be there, but by default you land on the page with tenders which were published in the past 24 hours only. If you click on, that's called Fresh tab. If you click on the live, you will see all the tenders which are within the deadline and which contain that term. So here, for instance, you have 89 fresh tenders which contain MP, but you see that it's not relevant because it's pumps, even pumps. So you need to play basically with the keywords. But the message is that you can see what were the tenders with the word in English detected during the past 24 hours, fresh tab, and then if you click on live, you see actually how many are there still within the deadline where you can actually apply. Okay. And this is out there for you can try, so we have even 947, but you need to narrow it down obviously and to play with the keywords. So this is the one service that is there for you without registering even. What's next on the list, Pietro? So regular tender digest. This is something that if you're already registered, our colleagues are handpicking the tenders which could actually be interesting for you, and we send you a so-called weekly digest. You can ask us questions through the help desk. I mean that's a service that we are offering to you. We have also we have developed 10 country-specific guidelines covering 10 countries in Europe, which gives you a pretty detailed overview of what is the first, second, third step to do when you want to bid in that particular country.
Yeah, you can download all of them from our website. Of course, free of charge. We only want to know who you are, so you only need to say your name and email. And the countries are the ones you see: Czech Republic, Estonia, Greece, Ireland, Latvia, Lithuania, Portugal, Slovakia, Spain, and United Kingdom.
And why these countries? Simply because the current consortium, which is Tenderio consortium, which is composed of 5 partners, are speaking these languages. In combination with other 3 projects, IPON, SESAM, and PPACT, they also deliver their materials, and we also encourage you to check their websites because they have guidelines on different countries. So combined together, there is good body of knowledge already available for you, where you can do some serious studying and getting acquainted with the problematic. We have a blog, Tenderio blog, where you can see very nicely, friendly, easily digestible articles tackling any issue related to international bidding. It's quite active, and we really try to address all the problems that I mentioned before through engaging articles. So there is blog. You can check out all the articles there.
Robert, sorry.
Yes.
When you speak about the guidelines, that means that you only help us finding on those markets, or it's a different thing?
So it's a country-specific guideline. Let's say it's a country-specific guidelines on Portugal. So it's written in English. So non-Portuguese companies, if they want to try going after national or regional tenders in Portugal, they know where to start. And the same applies for Portuguese companies going in these other 9 countries.
That's the approach to the market.
Yes, exactly.
However, our services go beyond these 10 countries.
Okay, thank you.
And also, speaking of this, if you are a first-time bidder going after a tender published abroad, we normally strongly recommend that you actually look at those tenders which are published by EU agencies or EU institutions or international organizations. Why? Because there is no language barrier. Well, there is. All of them speak English. If you are in EU and EU arena, they are even obliged by law, if you request, to translate the tender specifications into the official EU language. It doesn't happen often, but it happened. It happened in our case. We asked to translate the tender specifications into Czech. It delayed the whole process for 6 months. Other players were not happy, but they had to do it. And so this is the playground, starting playground, that we recommend for the first-time bidders. Going for the tenders for EU agencies and EU institutions. There are about 100 of them, the current. And also the statistics that you saw, they apply to this EU arena. So 2 to 4 offers, 25% they receive only 1 bid, 10,000 tenders cancelled. These are the statistics from the EU arena. Right. Any questions? Make sense?
Yeah, actually I have a question. Regarding the problems that you find that are related to that begin from the searching process to submitting the tender and winning. Actually, between 3 and 4, my difficulties are, for instance, to find the tender documents. Because I have all the resume, the summary of the tender. I have the contacts that came with that, the summary, or I can check for contacts by email or by phone directly to the hospital or in the country of the origin of the tender. But I cannot find someone that can give me all the tender specifications, even paying, because most of them are paid. We need to pay them. But I don't want to pay something without knowing the feedback that somebody will send me the documents. So this is a major problem for me now.
Thank you.
Where, for example, you go on TED, the European platform, they tell you you can find tender specifications in this website, but it's just the general website of the procurer. So you have to dig in and start in the labyrinth of this website and search for the tenders, and that you can give up already from that moment, because if I have to waste half of my working day just for finding the documents, then you're done.
Yes, and that is one more good reason to apply for tenders published directly by EU agencies and by EU institutions, because they are all free of charge and they are all completely available for download. So this is what we strongly encourage. But we will dig into that later, explaining you how to actually search for tenders and cherry pick the one that makes sense. Right. If we, are there any other services that we haven't covered? Speaking of the.
Well, if you want to add something about the bidding laboratory, for example.
Yes. So this is a tool that is there for you, and it's exactly solving the problem that you mentioned. So when you are somewhere in this area, and you don't know what to do, you don't know what should be your next step, we have something that we internally call task bidding laboratory. You contact us through help desk and you explain us what the problem is, and we have the resources to actually guide you to make the right step that you want to make. And this is what we call a bidding laboratory. If we even try to suggest you maybe the partner, tell you who won that tender before or similar tender before, how many offers were received in that case, and this is what we call bidding laboratory. So please. It's there, and it's one email away. So we're there for you. We have events, obviously, one of them. We already had several in Slovakia, Tallinn, Estonia, and also we will have one in Greece, and a series of webinars which we launched last week. And the next one is just this Wednesday, and each of these webinars is focusing on different aspects of public tendering. If you won't make it, they are all recorded, they will be published on YouTube, and feel free and enjoy to study them.
Sorry, Robert, are
Yeah.
those webinars announced by any way?
Mhm.
Send us an email. If we subscribe to Tenderio, you send us an email saying there is a...
Yeah, absolutely. Regarding mass mailing, we have the problem of GDPR,
Yes,
as you
we all
imagine.
have.
Informally, we can send you, of course, we can mass mail you. However, if you look at our website or on the social media, we announce and give all information over there.
And social
But
media.
if you, for those of you who are already subscribed, if you would like us to invite you via email, please don't consider GDPR and just join the webinar. Okay? Among us.
A few seconds on the Tenderio Plus package, which basically includes all the services listed here, but there are some others. So you would get the access to the and login credentials to proactively search for the the full documentation on our website. There is also automatic email, so not manually pick the digest, but alerts based on your filters that you sent. Then you will also get much more enhanced help desk, guaranteed response time. We will also give you the tailored partner search service, linking you to our networks of consultancies and suppliers on the ground. We'll send you the database of winning tenders, which we put together. We will talk about it later. And also, we will also have mentoring sessions if you're interested, Skype sessions or over the phone, in order to enable you grow your own experts within your companies. So you are not maybe first, second, third time you will use the help of consultancies if you are interested. But the goal is to develop your internal capacities within your offices. That there will be one or two people capable of following and making this happen on their own. So this is what we are trying to also achieve in the package, with this package here.
One funny thing, as you see, access on Tenderio help desk, we guarantee response within 3 business days. But since it's Robert behind the help desk, he will answer you within 5 minutes. Okay? So
That's not true.
there's no difference between paid service and free service in this case.
Okay. So what is now on the agenda? Any questions regarding the services we are offering? I mean, it's on the website. You feel free to go there.
Just a question.
Yes.
I think that's easy to get those skills as you're speaking about. Because what we see is a different rules inside Portugal, and we go out and we go to Spain, we already have different rules. Supposedly, you should have all the same rules. And sometimes that's also a barrier to this kind of approach, because we already know that there will be some details that we are not counting with, and that will be a problem for the bid. So you think that it's easy to get these skills after working a little bit on? Are we losing our time? Or, you understand, should we just advise companies to go to the market through the Tenderio or any other platforms available, or what is the experience, Robert? So
yes, so international tendering, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So if you make the informed decision, yes, this is the path I want to take, rest assured that it won't be a short journey, it's a long journey, with rejections in the beginning. And this is the mindset you need to acquire in order to enter into this world. So this is the first part of my answer. The second part of my answer is that European Commission has done huge work during past decade on standardizing the rules and procedures when it comes to tendering within EU countries. Of course, you still have your regional and national procedures that are slightly different, and for this reason we developed the country-specific guidelines, and for this reason we have the network of local-based consultancies. But as soon as you cross the national frontier and you go up to the EU or international space, the things are actually quite heavily standardized, and the procedures are very similar. So even if you start studying, I mean, if someone happen to be doing PhD in public procurement and really go into all the procedure guidelines we prepared, you will notice that there are a lot of parallels. And we did it on purpose, that each guideline has the same table of contents, and you see the discrepancies and thresholds. Thresholds are different, but the procedures, I would say, are tend to be more and more the same. And also there are now new legislative proposals in the pipeline that will make this even more harmonized. So it is going towards a more systemized and homogeneous approach. We're not there yet, but if you in a company really want to dedicate resources and make this decision that this could be an important revenue stream in the future, it's worth of investing the time and energy to actually train someone in your team to become the business development and using the public procurement as a useful resource in the future.
So the next slide is where we're getting into details.
Okay.
So maybe we can do it after the coffee break.
Okay. I will maybe just mention one thing, and I use it only to motivate you, because again, going back to our story, personal story. First 3 or 4 years, we were working. Okay, I started as an intern, and then it was a freelancer, and then we set up a company. But we were always hiding behind bigger players with references, with track record, who actually were on the market, were delivering the products or service in the question, but just didn't have capacity to prepare and go through these headaches. So we were doing that. And then once we developed the expertise, we are somewhere in 2013, 14, and we had a small company. It was not even a company, it was just a company on paper. We didn't have real turnovers, offices, the company like you normally imagine when you hear the term company. But anyways, at that time we said we somehow have some track record, we know how it works. So let's try to not use only the other companies as a Trojan horse to get in the business, but put our own name, Pedal Consulting, in the first front row, and apply for small tenders. So what we did, 2013, we started monitoring, under threshold tenders, which are not published normally, which are not published because in the official journals, because they didn't meet threshold, and we prepared offer for DG Connect, and it was a tender where they wanted to put together like a platform with startuppers and investors, and basically it was a birth of something that is now called Startup Euro Partnership. We were not experts in startups. We didn't know how to do the website, but we believed that this is something that we could actually do. So we found one company from Italy on LinkedIn that could do the website, and we wrote the proposal. And it was, I think, tender under 90,000 euros. We offered 45 because at that time it was interesting for us, but maybe not also financially at that time, I must admit. But more importantly, as we wanted to make a first strategic step to somehow start playing this game as well. And we managed to win it. And this was a big eye-opener for us. It was a shock because, as I said, we didn't perceive ourselves as a real company. We didn't have turnovers, we didn't have employees, and we made it. And then we really started asking questions, so there are these real companies out there, which if we made it, there is no reason for them not to make it as well. So I'm using this as a, in a way, big milestone to motivate you that it is possible and it could work. And I think we can now have a coffee.
Thank you.
I mentioned the first step really when you want to enter the arena of international bidding is to identify the right tender. And there are different aspects to it that we will try to cover during the next slides. So obviously, and pardon me if some of the things are completely obvious, we will just fly through them. But really, essentially, if you want to enter this world of public bidding, normally it is advisable to be around at least for 3 years. The reason for that is that in many cases, the Part A, the administrative part, is requiring some proofs or documents from your past records in order to justify that you've been around for some time, that you're not a startup, even though there are schemes for companies which are freshly born. But yes, the first advice is that if you haven't been around for 3 years at least, it's better to team up with someone and submit a tender as a consortium. So that's the first thing. Obviously you need to, because we are in tenders, we're not in grants, you should definitely have the clear product or service or works, and these are the 3 categories identified by EU, that you are already offering, that you are capable of delivering. When it's grants, it is a little bit of maybe research involved. You don't have something tangible in your hands. But if we talk about tenders, your starting point should be that I have this product or I have this service and I can sell it. Okay, not other way around. You look for opportunities and then think, okay, maybe I can make it happen. The right way is that you are already established and you are selling it to the market already. Now I'm not speaking about innovation public procurement, which is a different thing.
So we go to buy that subject, right?
Sorry?
You go by that subject later.
I don't have it in my slides, but we can definitely cover that because if you're interested, for sure, it's very hot. Public procurement for innovation, PPI.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
For us, it's important.
Yes. So here we're talking about traditional purchase of goods and services.
Sorry, when you talk about a product, most part of the ITC products, you need configuration, installation, and so on and so on. You are not talking about those part of the...
Sometimes, for instance, if it's a hardware, it's very, very closely defined. If it's a service, then of course...
I'm talking about software.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So So in that case, you need to make sure that you can meet the eligibility criteria, the standard specifications.
Okay.
When Pietro comes, Pietro, maybe we can then show in 2 minutes how the invitation to tender looks like. I will start switching between slides and real documents to give you a little bit of more taste of how it looks in the practice.
Okay.
Okay. Also, another prerequisite is that your profit loss account should not be negative. It can be just €1 positive, but it shouldn't be a red number. That's a strong recommendation. And obviously, if you go abroad, at least one team member should be very strong in English, or the language of the country where you're aiming to go. You should also pass a so-called exclusion criteria. And this is done normally through the declaration of honor, where you have a lot of checkboxes that you need to tick in order to state that you are not owning money to the government, you have paid your taxes, you are not bankrupt, you haven't been convinced of a fraud or similar situation. So these are the prerequisites. Now, what is the size of the tender you should be aiming for? There is no real black and white definition currently in EU regulations, but as a rule of thumb, let's say if you would like to apply for a tender, which the total amount of which is 100. Your average annual turnover for the past 3 years should be around 150. Okay, this is if you want to go along. If you go with consortium, you can get much stronger partner, and then it balances it out. So these are the prerequisites. Make sense? Okay. Now, where to find, where to search for tenders? We have mentioned in the beginning that all the above threshold criteria, tenders, need to be, by law, published in EU official journal. These thresholds are different for 3 categories. There is a category of goods, services, and works. So as soon, for instance, for services, I think it's around 120,000. For goods, it's a bit more. I don't remember exactly. I don't want to give you wrong information. And for works, which is like construction works, it's about 1 million, I think. So as soon as the size of the tender published by regional or national government actually reaches this threshold, they are obliged to publish it in EU official journal. And this is actually where all these tender search engines detect them, because they have the data crawlers, and they use the electronic databases of states actually to feed them and present them in a form. So, for instance, Tenderio search engine, we selected it because it covers. It is not specifically oriented on some regions. It can cover worldwide countries, and also it is not sector oriented, so we can adapt it to our customers. But there are pros and cons, obviously. You have also search engines which are focusing on a specific sector, and they go much deeper. So there is a trade-off. When using the search engines, as explained, you can go by keyword. We saw it earlier, or by a country, or by a sector. And using the Tenderio search engine, not promoting it. Feel free to use, for instance, TED Tenders, which is, I think, very good search engine, free of charge, provided by European Commission. And we are also using it as one of the sources in Tenderio search engine. They can combine these filters. Which is, when speaking of Tenderio, you can also sort them out by deadlines, which is a handy thing to have, or the size of the contract, the amounts. So once you have these 5 criteria, 5 filters, you can already predefine quite closely what you actually are searching for. But there are plenty of uncovered or undiscovered opportunities in terms of under-threshold opportunities. And as I mentioned, if it's, for instance, a service, which is a tender of 90,000 euros, it doesn't need to necessarily be published in official journal, and in many cases it ends up only in some hidden page or hidden page of the agency or the institution. And this is one of the reasons why the participation rate is so low, because normal SMEs that don't have it as a core business, they don't discover this under-threshold criteria, which could be actually very important, and the search engines, they don't detect them either, because they are just sitting somewhere on the web pages of these agencies. Now, in the EU, do you have a EU agency? I think there is OSHA. There is OSHA, no? OSHA, or in Lisbon, or is there?
Yes, we have OSHA here.
OSHA. Maybe we can. Is the internet working? Just to show you, because basically how it works is that every of these EU agencies and institutions, I mentioned around 100 of them, has under-threshold tenders, which do not go to TED tenders, and they are just published on somewhere on the third subsection of the website. You normally go to public procurement, open tenders, and you see them there. OSHA. Yes. Let's see the example if we can actually find it. How many of you know about OSHA? No one.
Enterprise works with OSHA. Yeah.
So I don't speak Portuguese. You tell me what it's about. But it should be also English version of the website.
Yes, it's in that red window. You can change.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go for English. So already here in Portugal, you have an agency which is following the EU procurement, not national framework, and normally you should be able to find, if you are brave enough, the call for tenders. So normally maybe it's under about, could be under about EU or about EU OSHA, career procurement. See, so we're going somewhere here, and then it should be somewhere like public tenders or open tenders. Let's scroll down to see if there is something. OSHA contractor. So you see who won actually. You can see some open calls. So here we are. Lisbon. Already in your town, you can apply for international tenders through this agency, but you need to find it, And this is, as I mentioned, there are a lot of these agencies in almost each EU member state. Almost every EU member state has one agency. Okay, some of them have 4. So, and these are not published anywhere, and search engines won't detect them. And this is one of the reasons why actually these numbers are so low. Okay. Let's go back to the slides. Okay, so here we are. How do we overcome this? We in Untitled Consulting do this as a service to our clients, and we have over 100 links, still links that our consultants are screening in order to detect those type of tenders. And then as soon as there is something relevant, we alert them. And it is very difficult, at least from my non-IT point of view, to create solution that actually could make you aware that actually on this particular web page there is a change. Maybe there is already something, but we're not using it yet. So. My message to you is that even though they are under threshold, the amounts could be interesting. At least for me, the tenders of size 50, 60, 70,000 euros, where I have a 25-50% chance to participate, it's reasonable to invest resources and time into that. Now, still one more thing. There are different procedures. Each call for tender is following particular procedure. One procedure, the most common one, is an open procedure where you have a call for tender, there you have a deadline, you detect it, you want to participate, you participate. Open tender. Then you have also, in some cases, step 0, where actually the contracting authority is asking you to provide expression of interest. And in this case, they say, well, we will be launching a call on this and that, very broad terms. If you are interested, please express the interest, formal interest. There is one quick form to be filled in. And once you apply, and you meet very vaguely and generally conditions, then they send you the tender specifications. Okay. And then there is also a so-called negotiated procedure, in some, which is applied by also many EU agencies. And this is the case where you, at the end of the day, submit an offer, also financial offer, and they come back to you saying, would you like to decrease your price, or would you like to keep it as it is? We have pre-selected 3 candidates. You are one of the 3, and we are asking the same question to them. So this is for them the way to a little bit decrease the size of the winning offer. You can keep your original offer, or you can slightly decrease it. And this is done in a so-called negotiated procedure. Okay. Now, any questions, or it's clear? Don't hesitate to ask me. There is another playground or arena, which is still staying with the EU framework. So now the question is if you are eligible and if you have a capacity of delivering the bid. So now, once you identify a bid, you need to understand if you're eligible or not. And the good thing is that in EU arena you have always the structure of tender is in 98% the same. You just change the content, but the sections remain the same. So once you actually do your first or second tender, there is a lot of stuff that you can recycle, reuse, especially when it comes to the administrative part. So you have these three parts. You have exclusion criteria, selection criteria, and award criteria. We already partially covered exclusion criteria, where you just need to tick the boxes and say that you are not bankrupted, you are not in a prison, and so on and so on. And then you pass to the second stage, which is selection criteria, where you need to prove your economic and financial capacity. And you do it through, normally, they ask you for balance sheets for past 2 or 3 years, loss and profit statements, and annual turnover. It doesn't need to be translated into English. In many cases, when it's EU, you just send it in Portuguese. We are sending it always in Slovak. It was always accepted. The tax declaration forms. They have their Excel sheets where you are asked to just put numbers. We normally send it to the accountant. They send it back to us, and a legal representative signs it and stamps it. So not a rocket science really. Then you have something which is called technical and professional capacity, and this is where you normally prepare the bios of the experts with either predefined format, or you can choose yourselves depending on tender specifications what they require, and show that you have the team of experts capable of delivering the service or product in question. Well, the good thing is that in tenders you can also use, it's not so strict like in grants, you can use also third-party experts. So if you don't have if the expert in question is not an employee, it's not a problem, okay? Unless you can justify that there are strong enough links with them that once you win it, he will or she will be able working on that with you. That's fine. Of course, there is a status of a subcontractor as well, which is quite commonly used in the world of tenders. And once you have passed the technical and professional capacities, also
Sorry.
yes.
What do you mean by networks?
Networks? Oh,
Over there. Team, reference networks.
Okay, right. So I skipped the references. What they ask you for references is to justify that you have delivered the similar service or before. There's a table. You have the contractor, the year, what you have done, and sometimes maybe also reference, the reference from. And the networks, it's just, for instance, if it's a study, you are asked to commission a study or mapping or analysis. You often need to, and it's a cross-border scope, you need to make sure that you have somehow presence guaranteed in those countries. So you need to justify that you have the networks of experts, people who are ready to work on that if possible. And this is done through so-called letters of intent or letter of support that you attach to your proposal in the annex. And this proves that there is also someone more than beyond your team, a core team, going to work on this project. This is the networks. But it of course depends on tender specifications, if you need them or not. Have I answered your question? And then we go to award criteria. And award criteria is actually the technical proposal. And here, since it's not a grant, you only turn over or recommunicate the tender specifications. So, in other words, they know exactly what they want, so they are asking you to do thing A, B, C, and you tell them that, okay, I'm going to do A, B, C, and I'm going to do it this and that way. So you just push it a little bit further, but making sure that what they are asking is in line with what you are promising to deliver. So that's the technical proposal. I will show you example. And then we also consider the quality price ratio. This is an interesting factor, simply because sometimes you have a 70% quality, 30% price, you have 60-40, and this is an interesting, important thing to consider, whether you go for a quality proposal or economically advantageous proposal, or there is a trade-off. I will hopefully make myself clearer now when showing the examples. Perhaps let's go to the tender for DigiConnect. There should be a folder on DigiConnect. There we go.
The specifications.
Okay, so let's look at tender specifications. So this is tender specifications for the first tender we won in 2013. I mentioned for the DigiConnect. Let's go to table of contents. I just want to show you that it's really, you will find the structure always the same. And you see you have the many administrative requirements. Once you put this together, this heavy paperwork, for 3 years, you recycle it for the second, third, fourth proposal, and so forth. So you have administrative requirements. Then they normally tell you what is the layout of the tender. So you have administrative, technical, and financial section. Normally 3 different envelopes if it's printed copies, and each of them should be. Then there is another condition to that. They tell you exactly how it should be sealed, signed over it, put in inner, outer envelope. But I'm not going to those details. But it is important to read it because they can sometimes exclude you on the basis of these stupid things. And then you have a technical section and financial section, and this is identical in all tenders. You have administrative part, technical part, and financial part. Financial part is one sheet, Excel sheet, where you just give your financial offer. It's the lightest envelope you put in the parcel. And again, evaluation of tenders, as I mentioned, these exclusion criteria, selection criteria, where you need to prove professional information, financial strength, and technical background, and award criteria. If we maybe scroll down to these pages, 419, just to go even deeper, to show you how it is done. So they tell you what they want. You just need to rephrase it and put more ingredients to it, and that's your technical proposal. And so at the end of the day, it's not so difficult to write a proposal, because you just need to read every line and make sure that you write what they want. Okay, so if you scroll down still, and they even they tell you the work packages Are you familiar with the term work packages or tasks? Yes? Some of you. It's basically work package is a set of related actions, bundle of actions, which in the end form a certain logical and methodological output. And work packages are somehow related with one to another. And they tell, in grants, they don't tell you how these work package structures should be done. In tenders, they tell you this is the first task, second task, third task. Okay, let's scroll down even more. They tell you what the deliverables are, when should they be submitted.
Do you know what a deliverable is?
It's also the term that we are familiar with. It's deliverables are normally reports or events or tangible outputs of a given task. So here we don't need to create tasks. They tell us what they do.
Essentially, reports. A deliverable most of the times is a report or a document you drafted.
Mm-hmm. There's a timetable, which month. Normally they don't tell you January, March, but they tell you month 1, month 3, because we never know when we actually start. And we can,
in terms of approval.
And I promise that the document you see now is to a large extent similar to those that you will see when applying for different tenders in different sectors. Some of them could be more elaborated, some of them less, but the structure is always the same. You can still scroll down. I just want to basically show the evaluation.
Well, even the way of submitting the tender is important, because you may give for granted that it's submitted electronically, but sometimes they want it on paper. So you have to fill in everything and get ready 4 days in advance, because then you have to ship.
Staple everything and bind it together.
Joint tender, subcontracting. And if I can just say one thing regarding the expression of interests, we want to participate to a joint tender in Greece for the submission of audiovisual materials. But of course, we don't have headquarters over there, but we have a trusted Greek partner. So what we did essentially was to submit 2 different expressions of interest, and they answered, okay, you are interesting to us. And then after this, you can make the joint tender. So you can even just send all expressions of interest you can see. You don't care what country, whatever, just to receive the okay and then look for your partner, for example.
And I will talk about these best practices, and this is one of the techniques how you can actually get the tender from not scratch, but seemingly impossible tender. How you can win it thanks to the expression of interest.
I'm sorry, Pietro, I didn't understand.
I will explain them. Okay. Let's hold it. We're opening brackets. And I tell you the real example. Autumn last year, September 2017, we did our regular exercise, going through the hundreds of websites to seek for under-threshold tenders for our clients. And in one agency in Parma, Italy, called European Food Safety Authority, had an expression of interest form for media contact database. I think it was like tender for 40,000-50,000 euros. And it was interesting to us. We just it took us 15 minutes of work. We filled an expression of interest on behalf of Pedal Consulting, and send it.
Is that a pre-qualification for the tender?
Yes, some of them are following. As I mentioned, there are different procedures, and this was the step 0, which is expression of interest.
Okay.
So first,
in our cases for Greece, they just ask for name of the company, headquarters, contact person, and that's it.
That's it.
Nothing more.
But you need to follow this procedure. So we expressed interest formally, and 2 weeks later they come back to us with the tender specifications, invitation to tender, where they hey, let's show it. There is EFSA tender.
Is that a closed tender or what? Because
it's called negotiated procedure.
Okay.
It's called negotiated procedure, and you don't see them
so
in
search. Is that a way of you to get some consortium, get some partner there?
You can get. Now I will explain how it works.
Okay, sorry.
What do you have to look for?
It's under EFSA folder. So they were asking to give them a service where they would have up-to-date diary of journalists in all European countries and also outside of Europe. Maybe clustered or based on their preferences, what they have read, what articles they have written in the past, in order to help them promote their activities, and do the promotion. Pedal Consulting, we didn't have this product. I mean, we are not media experts. We don't have this product, but reading through the tender specifications, they said that it could be subcontracted without any limit.
Okay.
So we just started the Googling, who is on the market actually, who has this product already. And we came to the agreement with one UK-based company called Agility, and they had exactly what they were looking for. So we said, well, we have this invitation to tender. You cannot apply because you haven't submitted expression of interest. So you can be only as a subcontractor. And of course, it was a win-win for all. So it was not even consortium. It was Pedal, the only partner, but subcontractor, which is not considered as partner of consortium. We submitted an offer, and we managed to win the contract. So this is one of the success stories how we actually get contracts through using the negotiated procedure. We put our foot in the doorstep, and basically then we are halfway in. And since other companies, we're just taking advantage of the fact that other companies do not have time and resources to identify them. So this is how opportunity could be born. Really.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, maybe, so the invitation to tender, normally it's very easy. You get 3 documents if you go one level up just to the folder. It's 3 things, often when it comes to under-threshold criteria. It's invitation, 1 or 2 pager from head of unit saying you are invited to this tender. Please find attached also the tender specifications. So this is the invitation letter, 1 or 2 pages. The second one is tender specifications, which actually you have seen in other example. And the third one, and it's a good thing, is actually draft model agreement, where they tell you, if in case you win, these are the conditions you will be asked to sign. Normally you see also what is the pre-financing, if there is, what will be the installments, what are the conditions. Even though there is a certain level of flexibility to that, I will get back to it at the end of our presentation today. But it's 3 things.
Sorry. For us, invitation is something that you receive, invite you. Okay? It's not the case. You have to look for that invitation.
No, so you get invited. So under the negotiated procedure, you get invitations once you have submitted the expression of interest.
Okay. So you receive it later after the pre-qualification.
Exactly.
Okay.
But this pre-qualification is often very light.
Okay.
Very light.
Excuse me. Here in Portugal, we have a similar process. For instance, in the maintenance contracts for hospitals, for Metro of Lisbon, you have this kind of stage negotiations. Okay, and it's the same process. What happens that the letter of interest, they usually announce. And they select who are the partners to that kind of maintenance. And you specify, you have a kind of pre-qualification of your abilities to do maintenance. Okay, I work as a consultant for one of the companies, and we won 2 contracts related with that. And it was very interesting because there was 3 stages of negotiation. The first one was price, the second was the calendar. Also very important if you have some milestones to accomplish, and if you have more activities or less in that calendar. And the third one, it was when they want to close the final bid in the contract, they negotiate the second stage of the price again, based in the changes of the calendar. So the process is similar. More complex, maybe this kind of tendering processes are not so complex as these technical projects, but
more straightforward.
more straightforward. But the process is very similar. Very similar.
I'm glad that you're saying this. As you can see,
It's very rare. It's very rare in Portuguese because usually Portuguese tendering processes are very straightforward, okay, or very restricted in certain areas. But in this kind, it was maybe in my experience in the tendering process, or it was in Motengil, one project like that, and a long time ago in Sorefam, in a railways company here in Lisbon. We work also at a negotiation level like that. It's very rare, but it happens.
Yes, the procedures, I mean, they are called, I mean, if it's a negotiating procedure, it means normally the same thing at EU level or at country level.
Yes, yes, yes.
The same is like open procedure or a restricted procedure. So the terms are really can be used interchangeably. Only the cases when they are applied could vary.
Yes, yes. Absolutely.
Right. So invitation to tender, or tender is composed of three things: invitation to tender, tender specifications, and draftable agreement. Sometimes you may have a lot of annexes if it's a complex tender for millions of euros. Of course, you have a lot of. And the more complex tender, the more difficult to prepare it. But essentially, it's these three things. Okay. Any questions here? So now this is your arena. Maybe one slide before Pietro. For the and even before, maybe we didn't cover it. So there is also I don't know where it is, but basically when it comes to country-specific tenders, of course you may want to go through search engine providers that are in your country. Some of them are. Do you have any? Do you know in Portugal, Pietro? Is there?
You have,
Vortal.
I think, 3 or 4 platforms.
We have Vortal. We have a couple of them. Actually, these kind of engines in Portugal, they are quite how do you say, elitist. They work for big companies. Because you need to buy very expensive stamps, and for small and medium-sized companies like mine, it's very difficult to compete because the system is prepared. Actually, Vortal is owned by Motengil. It's a company, okay, it's a private company, so it's a concession more or less. And that's for me that's a big problem because it's better for Portuguese small and medium-sized companies, it's better to bet in outside projects like using your platform. Maybe, instead of betting in the local projects. Some of them with long-term payments and lots of issues that we are not aware in the beginning, but sometimes we lose money, okay? And it's I think these kind of platforms, outside platforms, could work better than local ones, in my point of view. And my experience.
It's obviously not one size fits all, but we always, I cannot emphasize it more, we are not a search engine. So we are a network of consultancies.
Yes, very important.
Powered by search engine. But if we thought that the search engine we chose 3 years ago was good, we are really open to take a different one or not even to have it. We are constantly adapting to new realities. So, as I mentioned, we have 10 country-specific guidelines when it comes to different countries, because there, at some point, you need to really have the domestic expertise, and they are all available on our website. So, what now happens? You identified the tender, and you have, as I mentioned, three scenarios. Either the two extremes: perfect tender, I have enough time, I understand, I can do it, I can prepare it, I submit it. That's the first scenario. The second scenario, opposite: no, not for me. I walk away, I keep searching for something more relevant. And the third scenario is actually the situation where you consider it, you cannot do it yourself, and you need to find maybe the right contractor or partner in order to team up and do it together. And this is where we move to the next topic of our presentation, which is how to find a suitable partner abroad. Before going there, any questions on how to search for tenders? It can be anything, you know, above, under threshold, country level, national level. If you have any questions, let me know, or write them to us.
Do you know the difference between public and private tender? Yes. Okay. Just for our
We do
information.
think we know.
We
Would we explain it?
we are using it.
That's a better way to put it. We do think we know, but if you help us to
I think you
clarify
know.
the concept, that's right.
Well, thanks to the partnership with Dell-Link, is it a partnership now?
Yes, Dilly.
Well, as far as we got it, the most difficult part of private tenders is to find them, essentially. Because after that, it's definitely more straightforward, as we were saying, than the public ones. Because they want A within that time, and they want you to do it for X money. And that's it. And then maybe it's a little bit less transparent. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, because they are not obliged to follow, you know, heavy regulations. I mean, if it's like you, if you have your company, you need to find the best supplier. You want it quickly, but without any lot of paperwork, decision-heavy process. So you approach maybe several companies and collect offers, and then choose the one that suits you the most. So the thing is that private world is normally much faster in decision making. They don't ask you for a lot of checkups, and once you are a trusted supplier, you're just sending them financial offers with the quotes.
The problem we have in Italy is before the private call is issued, they already know who's going to win.
We have the same thing. We are similar like Italians.
They did a
I'm sorry to tell you that.
Okay, on the issue of transparency, we need to distinguish between, yes, transparent and non-transparent countries. Now I'm considering the Transparency International register. But at the same time, you can have very transparent tenders in normally non-transparent countries. They said you have, for instance, Romania, quite down on the list of Transparency International, but the EU agencies and delegations there, and also the maybe UN organizations there. They, I'm quite confident saying this. It wouldn't make sense for them to risk to do some non-transparent methods and activities. So if you go for transparent organizations in less transparent countries, you rest assured that the competition is fair.
Yes.
Usually in Portugal, in certain tendering process, they are very clear and very transparent, because what happens that if there is a problem with documentation or any doubts about the supplier, that means that the contest can be blocked and nothing happens. And that's why people, usually the jury, try to be transparent. But there are always information in advance about things that the candidate shouldn't know, but they know the things in advance. It happens also, especially when we have a good examples. The motor race in Portugal is a good example. The process of the candidates are always the same, so it's quite tricky. Okay, but it happens in other kind of tendering process. It happens. The municipalities projects is also the tendering process for the municipalities are also very tricky, because usually people set up. The mayor set up with relatives, companies to answer the tendering process.
Allegedly.
I refuse to say that word. They set up. That's clear. And we have good examples.
Yes.
But the Portuguese people like it. The Portuguese people like it.
Yeah, okay. This is reality. Well, we are headquartered in Slovakia, and I must admit that we have only one grant there, not even a tender. We made decisions since the beginning that this is not our market, and we went straight forward to the EU arena. And there I really, using the motivation story that for you, no one knew us, we didn't know anyone, and we managed to get it and then replicate it. So it somehow speaks for itself that the procedures, if the proposal, if it's written well and if it's reasonable, it has a realistic chance to be selected.
Especially in this level, medium value of proposal, that can be transferred. That can be transferred. But the big ones are very tricky. The big ones.
Infrastructures.
Yeah, constructions, airports.
Now the question: how do we stand in terms of time? Do we start a new topic, or we start and then we break and we continue?
If you can make it within 15-20 minutes.
What time is it now?
12:15.
Okay, I will start and then we see how it goes. And 12:30, if it will be on time, we can continue. So I start this topic before lunch. It's about the next step. Sorry, how to find suitable partner. So obviously, the first point on the list is you really need to go through the tender specifications and identify the gap that the skills, the references that you're missing. Ideally, you should be able to define or identify the partner that could join your consortium based on the skills that you don't have and they are requested and the partner has them. Okay, so this is the first starting point. Again, grants world, it's different because there you need to, in a way, balance the tender and all partners should have more or less the equal involvement. Here it's not applicable. If you need a partner with one specific reference, which would address one set of activities only, maybe 10%, that's fine. Because keep the most of the cake for you. And then the rest would be done by a partner who is expert in that. Now, also the second element, if you come to the decision that you need a partner with this particular set of references, it is advisable, highly advisable, that this partner would be actually located in a country where the tender was published. Okay, so if you need a partner, get a partner who is on the ground. And also, make sure that they have exactly the references you are asking them, and that they have delivered something similar before, and they have the references for this type of contracts. So let's presume that you already identified such a partner. You are in a situation, you're preparing a tender, or you would like to prepare a tender, you need this set of activities from a partner, you identify this partner is located in a country where a tender was published, and you need to approach them somehow. First thing, please, when contacting them, the things that work the most is that you either get introduced yourselves through a trusted party. Cold calling doesn't really work, and really make sure that you look into your database of previous networks, collaborators, and see if there is any link in that country who can actually knock on their door instead of you. Knock on their door, I mean introducing you by email, let's say at the first stage. But it does happen that there is no link, not even an indirect one, with the partner you would like to have in your consortium. In that case, the procedure is that you prepare attractive partner search proposal. What that means, it's normally a one-pager where you quickly introduce yourself, golden paragraph of the company. You mention that we're considering to submit, we are going to submit a proposal in this tender, and that we are inviting you. So you are not asking them for a favor. You are doing them a favor. You are inviting them to do it with you, and obviously then asking for if they are interested, please confirm within the confirmed deadline. Okay, but this one pager is the most important, I think, step when searching for these relevant partners. So sell yourself as a future winner, and present it in a way that it's not really you asking them for a favor, but you doing them a favor. So again, as I said, please use your existing network if possible. We at Pedal, and I think it can be used as a good practice, each time we participate to a proposal, or not even a winning one, we have an internal database where we indeed state, with whom we worked, what was the proposal about, and in order to maybe when 2 years later we need someone in the country, we look in the database and we already have a link there. So we please keep the database, internal database of contacts, also for these purposes. I don't know, are you doing this in Loba? Do you have something similar?
Yeah, we have a side company called Scope, invest in. They're focused on financial offers and database.
How many of you have this type of systemized way of keeping track of contacts with whom you worked? No one. I think this is, I would say it's important. When it comes to consultancy world or business development, contacts are 99% of the success. Right. So if you don't know someone, please recommend, ask them to recommend and introduce them to you. And if you happen to be completely isolated from international partnerships, we have a service in Tenderio, which is called this benchmarking service. And Pietro already mentioned it before. Maybe we can have a little bit deeper dive into this service we're offering to you free of charge. And then we will cut there and maybe go for lunch and continue later. So if we basically what we came up with is a database. It's an Excel database of tenders, around 500,000 tenders that were awarded within EU during the past 5 years, but ending, I think, the last piece of data with 2016. So it's not difficult to put it together. It's just because this information is public. The only thing is that because every time that there is a public contract awarded, it needs to be published somewhere. The only thing is where, somewhere, and it is accessible only for a limited period of time. Then it goes to archives, and you need to go through a lot of process to get it. So we developed this database based on 10 tenders data, and we use it as what we call the benchmarking service. Pietro, can you please open the Excel sheet, the benchmarking database, to show you?
That service is included in the free package? Or?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's great, that's great. That's great.
We don't send you the database, we give you the tailored information.
Okay, of course, but that's
yes.
wonderful.
And the new rules of the in Portugal and in the rest of Europe of the protection.
GDPR.
Yeah.
It's a famous GDPR that shakes.
What's that? Yeah.
Yes. What is it? And what's your question?
The problem, that's all, is your date of birth.
This is public information, and we do not collect emails. Only organizations here.
Oh.
So we are covered.
And
names. Only names.
Only the names of organizations.
Any connection.
We don't give you the name of coordinator. If you want, you can dig yourself. But we finish at the organization level.
Just one more question.
Yes?
This is specific for European market, or you have also?
So this database is for tenders for EU, European tenders, because there are also Norway, Switzerland, Liechtenstein,
and those are above the thresholds.
No, but also under, because in many cases, I forgot to say that there are countries that practice, voluntarily, that each time they publish even under threshold, they publish it also in a EU journal. But there is no rule, so there are countries that are like Finland, for instance, or even Slovakia. I was surprised.
And Portugal.
In Portugal also,
yes.
they publish also under threshold criteria.
But on a national portal.
Okay, national. This is directly from TED portal. So it seems it's a boring database. We didn't try to convert it into, it can be converted because it's a structured data into some user nice format charts and so on, but we didn't see the value yet and of this. There were some attempts in the future, but as soon as the funding got dry, it was not updated. So we don't want to do the same thing. So what can we read from this database? First, it is ordered based on common procurement vocabulary. It's a standardized term, CPV, which for each sector, each specific product, there is a code actually. If you go to CPV codes, you see, this is German, but maybe there is also Portuguese if you go to, so the first row, there are countries. So you see all the basically common procurement vocabulary, the standardized terms. So it tells us which organization, which institution, which buyer, in which country bought, which tender, for how much, how many offers were received, and who won this. Okay, this is it's quite interesting set of information if you want to start writing, looking for winning partners. Also, when you go to awards with multiple CAs, these are the tenders. There is one more column basically, which are the tenders where the contract was awarded to the consortium, not to a single winner. Okay, and who is the consortium? Who are the partners of the consortium? And we also they also track in this database either there were subcontractors or not. Yes or no? We don't know who they are. So having this set of information presented in a structured format like this database, if used in a smart way, it can bring you to potentially very strong partners. Okay. Example: there is or there was recently big tender for IT services, VIP IP services for members of European Parliament. Tender of amount, I don't know, 80 million euros. Framework contract for 4 or 5 years. And apparently, obviously, it's much more complex tender than the one you saw for 90,000 euros, a lot of annexes, and it is most likely that there will be only very few offers received. And if our client from Slovakia, software house, number for certainly top 3 software houses which could meet the conditions, they were financially strong, they had a team, they had references. If they wanted to really go for this tender, what we did, we shortlisted companies from Luxembourg, Brussels, and in France, the European Parliament in Strasbourg, that won similar contracts before, and suddenly we had the names of 4 or 5 companies, okay, which were considered as potential partners. And now there is a different, we are entering different territory where also diplomacy plays a role, and the contacts, how to approach them. But we knew, thanks to this database, who would be a good partner to have, and then try to propose good arguments, strong arguments to do it together. So this is available. Please welcome. This is available. Please feel free to use it. If you would like to benchmark yourself, tell us what is your sector and what is your product, and we tell you who wants similar tenders.
But so we ask the question and then you reply.
Yes. If we go
the output of the pricing or whatever.
Yeah. If we go to the website under a section called the benchmarking tool, you see exactly what answers we can answer. So services and benchmarking. Yeah. Basically, here are the list of questions. If you could scroll down a little bit more, that we answer for you. We send you the extract from the
Extract,
database.
that's perfect.
It's not bulletproof, but I think it works. It's dated 2015 or 16, I don't remember, but it's based on 500,000 tenders, above and also under threshold.
So it's not up to date.
Sorry?
So it's not up to date.
No, the latest data we have is 2015 or 2016 from this database, yes.
But however, as far as we are still financed by COSME, it's available service to have for free. I think it's even to have an overview of who your competitors are, who can work with you, and so on.
Yes, so I think let's stop it here. Not to overload you with the information, and we continue after lunch. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to talk to me.
All right.
Olá, boa tarde. O meu nome é Catarina, eu venho da parte do Madum Parque, que é o Parque de Ciência e Tecnologia da nova CT, na Caparica. Venho apresentar o projeto IPON, que já devem ter ouvido falar dele um bocadinho de manhã. Venho com o meu colega Miguel Sousa, da parte da CCIP, e viemos então apresentar o nosso projeto europeu, que tem a duração de 1 ano e meio, e trata então de inovação na contratação pública, as oportunidades e parcerias. Como disse, o projeto tem a duração de cerca de 1 ano e meio. O orçamento adjudicado são 328.000 euros, sendo financiado a 75% pela Comissão Europeia, através do programa COSME, que muitos de vocês já devem conhecer, é um programa que visa, portanto, promover a competitividade entre as pequenas e médias empresas. O principal, portanto, o IPON surgiu em linha com portanto, a nova reforma do Código de Aquisição Pública e também com a crescente necessidade das empresas, portanto, das PMEs, terem portanto, uma facilidade maior em ter acesso à contratação pública e aos contratos que estão em vigor. Somos 7 parceiros, temos como coordenador a Eslovénia, temos várias câmaras de comércio como parceiros, a Itália, Espanha, temos França, Portugal, portanto é o Madam Park e CCIP que representam o projeto, temos também a Grécia e a Bulgária. A metodologia que foi aplicada e que está a ser aplicada neste projeto começou, portanto, um levantamento da situação nacional de cada país. Portanto, cada parceiro comprometeu-se a fazer um enquadramento da situação nacional. Foram também criados inquéritos online dirigidos às PMEs e outras associações de interesse em contratação pública para, portanto, reunirmos o máximo de informação sobre a opinião e a real situação das empresas relativamente à aquisição pública. A parceria comprometeu-se também a fazer eventos matchmaking e B2P, exatamente para então reunirmos todas estas entidades e podermos discutir agora cara a cara sobre os reais problemas que estão associados a este tema. E depois então dos questionários dos eventos, cada parceiro criou um relatório nacional com, portanto, a agregação de todos os resultados que daqui surgiram. Portanto, foram elaborados 7 relatórios nacionais. Cada relatório nacional tem, portanto, na sua estrutura, o enquadramento jurídico do país, o contexto nacional, tem cerca de 3 a 4 estudos de caso por país, os resultados dos relatórios nacionais, que vêm muitos deles apresentados em gráficos, que vão ver mais à frente, depois a agregação deles, e os inquéritos, portanto, no final estão disponíveis os inquéritos que foram feitos, com as perguntas que foram feitas em cada língua e em inglês. Portanto, ao todo, foram reunidos 21 estudos de caso e cerca de 230 inquéritos. Esta informação foi toda agregada num relatório comum, onde foram tiradas algumas conclusões principais. Ao nível dos inquiridos, portanto, os principais inquiridos foram então as PMEs, apesar daqui estar mal, não sei porque é que as empresas foram parar, mas devia estar em primeiro lugar, seguimos de câmaras de comércio, câmaras de artesãos e outras associações empresariais. Uma das perguntas que foi efetuada foi em relação à abertura do mercado para a aquisição pública. E a maior parte das pessoas respondeu que acha que está parcialmente. Portanto, logo por aqui depreendemos que existe algum trabalho a fazer então para tornarmos esta situação mais transparente e fácil e acessível. Algumas das razões invocadas então para o mercado não estar totalmente aberto ou haver problemas nessa transparência. As justificações que foram dadas prendem-se com a preferência por grandes fornecedores, a não aceitação de novos fornecedores, a aversão ao risco, portanto a valorização apenas de grandes marcas, isto porque uma das razões que foi levantada nos eventos foi que as pessoas temem muito que os novos fornecedores não tenham bagagem suficiente para acompanhar, portanto, o processo até ao final, e daí esta preferência pelos grandes fornecedores, o que, portanto, limita a abertura do mercado, porque se os compradores são os primeiros a não apostar nas novas entidades que entram no mercado, então voltamos ao mesmo e serão sempre os mesmos a beneficiar deste tipo de concursos. Relativamente à documentação, se está bem estruturada, a qualidade, se é muito complexa, pouco complexa, a opinião, portanto, 48% da opinião é que portanto, a documentação está parcialmente bem estruturada, o que daqui também se depreende que se calhar há uma necessidade de facilitar esta burocracia toda de volta da própria documentação da aquisição pública. Relativamente ao preço, portanto, dos concursos em si e depois da contratação, se é um valor deturpado, e a opinião é que é um valor bastante alto e que não corresponde, se calhar, muitas vezes ao real esforço e necessidades inerentes ao concurso. Relativamente ao feedback da parte dos fornecedores, portanto, durante o período de esclarecimentos, se é suficiente, se é insuficiente, a opinião que surgiu foi que, comparativamente com há uns anos atrás, que mesmo assim está muito melhor, mas que ainda há melhorias a fazer. Portanto, aqui está um bocadinho mais dividido a nível de respostas, sendo que, no entanto, a maioria das respostas é que, portanto, o feedback até está bastante bom. Relativamente à complexidade dos concursos, para que se é um fator que desmotiva a participação das PMEs, e aqui a resposta de grande maioria é que sim, que é um dos fatores principais, porque muitas das empresas não têm, portanto, o conhecimento suficiente a nível legal e processual para então conseguirem caminhar, ou muitas vezes não têm pessoal adjudicado para acompanhar o processo todo, e por isso é algo que deverá ser simplificado de alguma maneira. Algumas das razões levantadas prendem-se, portanto, com as insuficientes competências legais por parte do staff das empresas, insuficiência de competências financeiras, assim como insuficiência de competências técnicas, porque hoje em dia, a nível das plataformas, muitas pessoas não sabem como portanto, mexer na plataforma, e muitas vezes o tempo que se perde a dar formação, portanto, alguém da empresa dar formação a outra pessoa para tratar desse assunto, portanto, é tempo, é dinheiro, é tudo. Relativamente à importância, ao papel das TICs no acesso das PMEs aos concursos públicos, a maior parte das pessoas considera que é bastante importante. Também estamos numa era tecnológica e não faria sentido se assim não fosse. E vamos passar às próximas atividades. Próximas atividades, que são as atividades que estão a decorrer agora. Portanto, nós estamos a cerca de menos de 6 meses do final do projeto. E, portanto, nesta fase vamos ter 2 eventos, que são os eventos finais, onde vamos convidar portanto, PMEs e outras empresas a estar presentes, onde vai ser uma espécie de evento, se calhar um bocadinho maior que este, mas dentro deste género, numa perspectiva de esclarecer e dar a conhecer o que se passa no mundo da aquisição pública. Vamos ter aqui em Portugal 2 experts em contratação pública e da parte desse expert, portanto, estes são os requisitos que nós pedimos, portanto, ele vai ser mentor desses 2 eventos que nós vamos realizar e dará então uma contextualização nacional muito mais atual, com acesso a textos de conteúdo informativo, alguns artigos, plataformas online que se possam utilizar, entre outros conteúdos que sejam de interesse. Portanto, a nível dos eventos que vão ser realizados, é um evento onde poderemos falar de tudo um pouco. Estes serão os temas principais a ser abordados, portanto, falaremos de estratégias de contratação pública, de normas legais e a sua respectiva implementação, e sobre as plataformas e o e-procurement, portanto, informação sobre a estratégia nacional de compra, sobre as plataformas que temos em vigor, algumas explicações técnicas sobre a utilização dessas plataformas e pronto, e este é o que esperamos para os eventos futuros e é tudo o que tenho a apresentar sobre o projeto IPOM. Obrigada. Se quiserem mais informação, eu deixei ali à porta estas brochuras. Se quiserem fazer alguma questão, também poderão perguntar a mim ou ao meu colega Miguel. E pronto, é tudo o que eu tinha a dizer sobre o projeto IPOM. Obrigada.
Esse estudo reporta-se a que ano?
Diga?
Esse estudo?
Sim, portanto, os dados dizem respeito aos 3 últimos anos, algum tipo de informação que não haja atualizada, eventualmente será, mas sim, são os 3 últimos anos que é a informação que está disponível a nível público, não é? Portanto, com este evento final, com os experts, é isso que vamos tentar ainda, portanto, melhorar mais, que é como são pessoas que estão a trabalhar na área. Esperemos então que estes eventos tragam ainda atualizações mais recentes do que aquelas que nós temos acesso.
As regras se alteraram a partir de janeiro deste ano.
Exato.
Para muitas dessas questões estão mais diluídas, mas porventura existe outras.
Exatamente, daí a necessidade de fazer este evento, porque é um assunto que foi reformado há pouco tempo, então há muita coisa a surgir.
Covered, but we already touched upon quite a few issues. To start with, I would probably like to finish with the topic we started before lunch, how to find suitable partners, and then we would wrap up by more practical examples and talk about a little bit more about how evaluation of tenders is done, how to set the financial offer, and then who wants. We will be there also with Pietro after this formal part and stay for more internal, like informal chats, let's call it personal consultations, where we'll try to get to know each other a little bit closer. It will be one-on-one session, 5, 10 minutes, depending on the availability. So whoever is interested, I will be here until 5 or 5-ish or so. Please feel free to come to me and to Pietro, and we will also maybe show you directly on Tenderio what tenders are there at the moment relevant for you, and just initiate the discussion and essentially move it and continue with it by emails offline or maybe Skype calls after today's workshop. So, thank you again for coming after lunch. Going back to the suitable partner, how to find the suitable partner role. I mentioned that we stopped at the Tenderio benchmarking service, so whoever is interested, please do send us email, contact us through either help desk or through the info address on our website, and we will certainly get back to you and benchmark you against those companies that normally win tenders of your interest. There is one interesting thing that I would like to talk about briefly when setting up new consortia. Obviously, there are different tactics how you can approach potential partner and raise his or her interest. I mentioned one, if it's really a cold contact, try to sell yourself through giving them a chance to participate in your winning proposal. And the starting page is this, starting step is the one-pager to be presented to them and then doing the follow-up activities. There are different arguments you can pull up of your pockets when entering the negotiation with potential partners. And depending on, of course, your senses, you will know if at the beginning the partner in question is stronger, or if you are maybe stronger. You will sense at the beginning, what is the chemistry between the two sides. But the things that you normally want to consider, if you want to convince them to be with you and maybe not setting up the competitive proposal, is to tell them, is to make them believe that you have really strong cards in your hands. And one way of doing it is basically saying that if you are first timer, or if you are in a way beginner, the thing that usually works is telling them that we will do the dirty work, we will do the dirty job, we will prepare the proposal, and from you we will only want certain inputs, like concretely defined bricks, but we will build the house from these bricks. And it works simply because all the companies are always overloaded. They don't have time to read emails and even entering into new collaborations. But if you suggest this collaboration, that it's our show, our movie, we are going to run it. From you we will need only this and that. It does work in many cases. This is one argument. The second argument I mentioned is to do it through under negotiated procedures, through using the expression of interest. You put yourself in the position that you were invited based on expression of interest filled in by you, and now you can actually invite subcontractors or partners simply because you are entitled to do so, and they are not because they haven't submitted expression of interest. Another argument that you may use is this happens in tenders where you normally don't expect a lot of competition, is to obviously agree on the conditions and have one proposal as joined even two existing proposals which are being prepared in parallel. This happens also in grants. Sometimes you contact a coordinator of project that is similar to the project you are constructing, and they say, actually we already have our team, but maybe there is room to merge forces. So another argument is, okay, let's do it together. We will, at the end of the day, we will maybe take smaller budget, but we will this way we will have one competing proposal less. There is another strategy, or one last tactic that is being used, which is called consortium-based approach. Essentially it means that you have a team of core partners, trusted partners, companies, with which you already done business before. It doesn't need to be for public tender, it can be B2B initiated or B2C. But you are a consortium, and depending on the call for tenders, which is published, you only invite one more player or two more players depending on what you actually need, but your core consortium is already defined. I mean, we have something, it's unwritten, but we happen to have good collaboration with LOBA, for instance. We're now together in several common projects, so if I can use this as an example, there are two other companies, also members of Tenderio. I would define it as a closed circle, and each time now there is, so we are consortium, we are ready to participate in a lot of tenders, and depending on what are the conditions, we invite one or two other external partners and form the appropriate consortium. So this way you already save a lot of time because you have this pre-formed consortium established already. And please, maybe last takeaway from this slide, please keep and establish and keep records of the partners with which you work. Also, when you go back to your offices, if you can delegate to some junior staff members or interns, it pays back. If you revisit your emails, revisit your projects, and have a simple Excel sheet where you will be able to track the partners with which you have worked before. Because they will not only serve as your potential partners, but as door openers in other opportunities. So, how to search for partners? What are the resources out there? Obviously, the European Commission is well aware of the fact that SMEs are still working in isolation in their respective countries, and for this reason, there are a lot of initiatives, aiming to tackle this challenge. I always use LinkedIn. I mean, as I mentioned, the first tender that we won, we just put announcement on LinkedIn saying that we will need an IT developer who can, design a website. We received a few candidacies, and based on that, we established partnership. And I think that also our collaboration with LOBA started through LinkedIn with Alex. How many of you are not on LinkedIn? Okay, just one. So it's quite popular too. And I will be happy after this workshop to connect also with you if you are interested. Then there are industry associations in your, not only in your countries, which serve as a good hub or directory to reach out to relevant partners. You will receive these slides, so I'm not going to read every single point here, but my preferred one is also, for instance, the Horizon 2020 National Contact Points. They have a large database, and they are offering the partner search tools themselves, right? The European Enterprise Network can also talk about it later, but based on criteria and needs, you will be able to find trusted partners abroad through those links. And there are the brokerage, even every time there is a call for proposals launched, the big announcement is made, and it's a good. They organize a workshop where a lot of stakeholders come, and also nationally they're organized by EA organizations, and it's a good way to meet new companies.
Have you ever participated in a brokerage event of Horizon or Erasmus? This is something you may take into consideration, because from LOBA point of view, one of the greatest projects we won came from a brokerage event. Because at the end of the various presentations where European Commissions will tell you, yes, we have to be good, we have to do this, we have to develop GDPR and so on, there's the dialogue section of the event where you say, I have this expertise, I look for a project, or I have the idea of the project but need this expertise. And by meeting during these brokerage events, you deal with people that are used to making, business abroad. So you already know that they will have someone that knows international laws, that knows bid writing or stuff like that. So from our point of view, it was a real successful thing. It was for an ICT brokerage event, and we had a project that develops healthcare softwares that do complicated stuff.
Okay, Pietro, next slide, please. So the last slide. So once you identify a partner, you have a gentleman's agreement. Please make sure that they indeed have the references you ask for. Because without that, your proposal won't be selected. Sometimes maybe in order to get in, the partners who are approached tend to slightly oversell themselves, and without due diligence, proper due diligence, they can give you not this reference, but slightly different reference. So just make sure that they do have this reference, and they can provide it with all the CVs and financial results upfront, because that's the condition. That's your That's your condition in order to accept them in your consortium. Since as soon as possible, agree on a budget, allocation of tasks. Allocation of tasks. So clearly define the territories. This is what you will do, and you will do it for this amount, and this is what I will do for this amount. And ideally, put it down on the paper, then agree on the deadlines, and start working on the proposal. If you haven't worked on the project or proposal with them before, it is advisable to sign non-disclosure agreement as well. Okay, so this was a topic on. So we covered how to find tenders. We covered the topic how to find a partner. By covering these two topics, we also entered into the discussion how the tenders are actually issued and also prepared. And now the last part of the presentation is actually how to prepare the offer. Before we start, any questions on how to find tender, how to find partner? No? Clear? Yes?
Just one question. The situation, how can we belong to your database for partnering?
Normally, well, our database is not so significant.
Okay, but
this database, if you go back, one more.
The LinkedIn, no? Maybe.
No, not LinkedIn, but here, if you go to slide 17. If you visit these links, you can create your profile there. And once you...
Okay.
But you mean as a consultant?
No, I mean as belonging to your partner benchmark tool.
The benchmark tool is not something that we create. We only take the data from award notices. So if you win a tender,
okay, but for me to win a tender, I need to be the principal to the tender. If I'm not never the principal for the tender, the prime contractor, okay, how can I belong to that part? It's impossible for me.
So the database that I showed you before, the Excel sheet,
okay,
it's basically the list of past winners database. Okay, so you will get to that list if you win, but that's only in late stage. What is, in my opinion, more interesting for you at this stage is to know who are actually these winners in your area. How many offers are received in the area that you normally participate? What is the size of these tenders, and who is winning them? And I think this information is much more interesting for you than just have your company listed in this database.
Right, but it's a little bit different than what I'm asking because I don't have a way to belong to your benchmark tool.
No, if you subscribe to Tenderio free service,
you
can ask.
Okay, I can read, I can access the situation, but my data from my company, what my company do, don't be in there if I don't mean nothing.
Yes.
No, the benchmarking, you don't find partners there. You just find the winners.
I find
If it's in the consortium, if you win in a consortium, your name will be there because the consortium winners will be also there, and all the list of the members and the partners of the consortium will be there.
Okay.
Unless you win, otherwise you are not there for benchmarking.
Never.
This is not
But he wants to be.
This is not a wedding.
He wants to be as a subcontractor. That's a good question, but I think Robert answered it before because you don't list the subcontractors, right?
Thank you very much for the support because
you don't list the subcontractors of the winner.
Yes, we only know in which tenders there was a subcontractor.
Yes or no, but you don't know the company.
Yes, exactly.
That's what he's after.
This is what you're asking. Sorry. So
he wants to be there because he has business in public contracts, but not as a winner. But he wants to be
in a role in that list.
Inside the companies that
how the other people that use Tenderio know that I exist. That's the situation. Okay?
Well, but that's not a Tenderio problem because they
know it's not
go
a
to the database.
Problem, but I'm trying to understand.
Yes, it's a very good question. Normally, the Tenderio is like a membership association, right?
Just one point. It's like this. For someone who uses Tenderio, okay, the information on Tenderio, it's much more relevant than LinkedIn. At this moment, LinkedIn is a bunch of advertising, nothing more. Okay, but Tenderio should be very important. Have a heavy weight on the decision of the partner. Okay, should be. Okay, that's why I'm asking. How can I make part of that list? Okay.
Well, so,
for example, if you are a suitable partner for someone requesting to bid in Portugal, if you match the requirements of your business, so on, then they know you within this context. But I'm not done. Maybe we don't have a list of all people that subscribe to us and so on.
Okay.
However, if you're doing whatever, we will redirect the person to you if you match the requirement for their bid. That means can be language.
But I wouldn't oversell Tenderio in this respect because there are far better partner search tools out there that are listed here. We just to give you a comparison, we have a couple hundreds of registered users, SMEs, compared to thousands in this database. So we are more like a club of members that want to do something in a world of public tendering. And we do it more like if there is a specific partner search inquiry coming from our clients, we obviously look as a first step in the pool of our contacts. But I think these tools out listed here can give you much better selection or choices when you are looking for partners, or if you even want to be found by others.
Okay.
That would be my answer. I don't know, but it's very good question.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions regarding how to find partners, how to find tenders? Okay. Then how to prepare winning expression of interest or winning I don't know why it's EOI. It's basically winning a tender. So. General guide. I won't be. I'll try to be quick here. So yes, read everything because they can, if they want, they will exclude you based on formality. Then present briefly your qualifications and also competitive advantage when you are writing the proposal. So as I said, they know what they want to buy, and your offer needs to stand by. So they will receive very similar offers. Try to think what is different, how your offer is special, the special ingredient that you actually add there, because they will read almost identical proposals. So your needs to somehow stand out. You give this special element. Example: when we were writing the 5th proposal to apply for a grant for Tenderio, the call for proposals didn't ask for bidding laboratory, for instance, or a benchmarking tool. But we just wanted to go a little bit beyond of what was expected and give these tasks a little bit special names, attractive names. So they, caught attention. It was something different when they were reading the other competing proposals. So these type of activities try to make or stress your competitive advantage. Use the forms provided, and they are very strict. Basically, when we boil it down, it's only answering the forms. Preparing the tender is filling in the questionnaire. Long story short, so fill them properly, and If you can, identify the local partner, team up with them, and submit it together. Also, if you have time and you haven't worked with this partner before, also of course the personal meeting is always helpful before you actually do the business with them. So now, how to set the proper price? As we have seen before, each tender is composed of three main things. Administrative. This is the biggest envelope. This is where you actually need to have all the copies, tax declarations, blah blah blah. We went through it. Part B, the technical proposal, where you want to sell your competitive advantage. And then you have a very small, tiny envelope with one sheet, as I mentioned, which is the financial offer. And here are the things to consider. Obviously, you can make a profit if you remember in tenders. So make sure you are not losing money. Okay. So know what is your break-even point, and if it's the first time, even strategically speaking, our advice is always don't be greedy, don't ask for a lot. It is more important to get the tender and get in the let's say the business, and then you slowly start. Once you're there, you become and you do one, you deliver one contract. Be sure that you will have much higher chances in future calls. Once you're in, you're in. There is this unwritten rule that every year, about 1/3 or 1/4 of bidders are newcomers. The rest remains. Okay. Now it's also the right time, just the information for UN. There are a lot of new UN tenders, although there is a chance for maybe to bring even 50% of newcomers, because there is a need for that. The Secretariat in Geneva, they changed their boss, and there are rumors that newcomers have even bigger chance. So, but what I want to say, when setting the price, and it's your first time, our advice would be go just slightly above a break-even point. Look at also the maximum amount. Okay. In most cases, they tell you that you cannot exceed a certain amount. As soon as you exceed it, you're disqualified. Also, all the expenses has to be normally VAT included. So they want to. If you ask them for 100, don't ask them for 100 plus VAT. Tell them what is the price. Okay, and it is again written in tender specifications. And of course, going back to the benchmarking, thanks to this tool, you will be able to know what is the amount of winning offers in the past. Okay.
Sorry, just one question. For instance, from Portugal to Belgium, we don't have VAT.
Mm-hmm.
What is the price? 100?
Yes.
The price usually are without VAT.
Yes, if it's normally if it's for EU agencies, they are exempted from VAT. So they even give you a specific form to sign that you
have exclusion of VAT. Okay.
Mas esse é o RF 22, uma aplicação.
Yes, and also when it comes to evaluation process, the last envelope, the financial one, is opened in the end only. So if you met all the exclusion, award, technical criteria, then they are entitled to actually look at the financial offer. Pietro, can you please open the document on the BG Connect? There should be tender specifications. If I put it there. Yes. So if you go to financial offer at the back at the end, you scroll down, there should be financial offer. Just to show you the example, the practical example, how it is looked. Or if you go down, there is okay. So the total price quoted cannot exceed 90,000 euros, and there is always a formula how they actually evaluate your proposal. Can you scroll down a little bit?
It's in the award criteria.
Yes, if you go to award criteria, and then okay, here we are. So first they evaluate the technical part, and they tell you how much each part is weighting, okay, and what is the minimum threshold in order to qualify for the next round. So the rules are pretty well defined, and when you're writing the proposal, you know where you want to put more emphasis because it is heavier compared to maybe other parts. So you see in this particular case, but this is the case for in all tenders, you have the 100 maximum, and the minimum it depends. In this case it was 60. And then in this this is the quality part, 100. And then you have the financial part, which in this case was 60% price, so 60% quality, 40% price. So they at the end of the day there is a formula. Oh, I think it should be just yes, below. There is a formula where it basically puts these two parameters in equation, and at the end they calculate your final score. These were the rules of the game in this tender, and I show you what was the result of evaluation summary report, how they evaluated it. So if you go to another document in that folder called a letter to successful tender. So this was the very first tender we won back in 2012 or 13, and it was very refreshing because after receiving tens of we regret to inform you, this time the email started, we are pleased to inform you. So and this is this is actually how the evaluation summary looks like. You have all the criterion, you have some evaluation comments, and also the score. If you scroll down. So you see we received 20 out of 30. About threshold, yes. And they evaluate each criteria in a way similar format. So again, 20, 30. So we lost quite a lot. You were just on the edge of the threshold actually. Please scroll down. But because the financial component in this case was 40%, which is quite significant, and we were a company which was not greedy, if I can use this word, but we were from Eastern Slovakia, where salaries are very low. We were able to still give the first offer, which was just above the break-even for us, and we didn't. So instead of asking 90,000, which was maximum, we asked I think 45, 7. I don't remember. Maybe it's there, but it made sense for us. Financially, we didn't lose money, but strategically, we suddenly were in. Okay, so this is the message. So 72 out of 100 points is not a lot. I mean, there were 5 offers, and for sure we were not considering the quality criteria at the first place. But thanks to the financial offer, in applying the formula, we climbed over the backs of other competitors. Just for example, 2 days ago we received, 3 days ago we received, now this is a grant evaluation where the final Horizon 2020 maximum points 15, we received 14.5 and we didn't get funding. Okay, so you see that in some cases you can lose points but still get it, and in some cases you lose only half point and you still don't get it. Right, any questions there? Does it make sense? Yes? Okay. Is there anything else?
The date?
Sorry?
What's português também.
Yes.
Muito bem, muito bem.
Estas respostas, isto é tudo dado em envelopes físicos ou respondido na plataforma Tenderio? Esta parte me está a falhar bocadinho.
We don't manage the informatic submission of the tender. It will be you to submit the tender, so you will receive the results via email. Yeah, it's always via email. So the results will not come through Tenderio. It will be directly to you.
Quando nós vamos submeter as propostas, é fisicamente por correio para um determinado sítio ou é através de uma plataforma?
It's hard copy or not? Yes.
It depends on the tender. Normally, it's you submitting the tender through the platform of the procurer.
Okay.
Normally, yes. In other cases, it's the hard copy and it's just sending. But normally, every single procurer has its own platform. It's a European directive to make the so-called e-tendering. So it will be you subscribing to the platform. From the platform, you can download the document, and within the platform, you submit.
But the platform has the same structure, that kind of structure that you need to follow.
Yes. And if you're going for smaller emails, so smaller tenders, the documents are sent by email also. I'll show you. Go to the EFSA one, please, Pietro. They basically ask for administrative criteria, technical criteria, financial offer, and in brief, this is our offer. 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2, 3, selection criteria, and so on. And this is our proposal. And what we did, we sent them this as a merged file in attachment of the email. So it can vary. It is by email. It is through a platform where you need to have your credentials. Or it is sending through regular post or courier.
Which tender can have many platforms?
Sorry, one?
Only one.
No.
Depends on the country.
Because one tender is issued by only one procurer, and that procurer has one platform.
One platform, exactly.
And
one way.
For example, but if you go to TED European, a small tender, they can tell you simply tender should be submitted electronically to this address. That is possible as well, as Robert said. But normally it's either one platform, one email, or hard copy.
É como cá em Portugal. Tem 5 plataformas.
Sim.
Não percebi, desculpe.
Em Portugal tem 5 plataformas ou 4 plataformas. Pronto.
Exatamente.
Mas cada plataforma, estas situações só podem aparecer numa plataforma.
Um cliente está afeto numa plataforma.
Lá fora, eles têm, e se tivesse já lido um documento, sorry, I'm speaking in Portuguese, mas explica. Eu já li alguns dos tenders que eles me mandaram, ok? Eles referem sempre a uma específica plataforma de um determinado país. E é por aí que tem que responder.
Portanto, temos que apreender, consoante for o país e consoante for a plataforma que tiver sido escolhida para a
Exatamente. Eles têm que, no concurso, indica qual é a plataforma que vai usar, e onde é que pede os documentos, e onde é que pede não sei o quê, e onde é que pede não sei o que mais.
Piorou.
Não é a mesma coisa.
Não, é igual.
Cada país. Plataformas, quer dizer, mas se ali são 7 países, cada país, imagino, tem 4 plataformas, piorou.
Mas antigamente o hard copy era pior.
Só responde para uma.
Melhorou.
Só responde para uma plataforma. Eles não distribuem o mesmo concurso por várias plataformas.
Eu já percebi, a questão está é o utilizador, consoante for o país ou consoante for o concurso, e esse concurso dentro do mesmo país pode estar. Se nós respondermos a 4 concursos dentro de um país, cada concurso usar uma plataforma diferente...
Normalmente não acontece isso.
Sim, pode acontecer.
Plataformas.
Pode acontecer. Mas o que interessa é o cliente que manda. Mas isso aí, quando era hard copy, quando era em papel, como é que fazia? Manda para o endereço que eles disserem, não é o mesmo. Não é sempre o endereço. É o endereço do cliente, manda. Pronto, então... Sim, é a mesma coisa. A plataforma fez uma fusão. São 4 ou 5.
É igual.
É mais fácil.
In any case, if you have the tender documents, the tender specifications, it's everything written there. It must be.
And if it's not, there is normally a functional mailbox address set up for where you can submit the question. And there is or tender specifications. The call for tenders says that the deadline is on the 10th, and by the 5th you can ask the questions. Okay, and each time you ask the question, it is answered and it is sent to all. Either in case of negotiating procedure,
same
all.
Here in Portugal.
So if you ask the question, all partners or all bidders need to know that what is the answer.
It's the same in
Okay.
Portugal.
So you have right to ask questions, of course, and sometimes they're very vague and it's painful. You're doing ping pong with them because you want to ask them something and they don't want to answer to you. Like if it's black or white.
It's the same in Portugal.
Yes, but you keep on asking and then. Sometimes it can be useful. Okay, next slide. Intro. What do we have there? Okay, we went through this. I think I'm not going to read this again. Evaluation. Well, we already started evaluation. I showed you. Normally, you have the rules are set. You know how much weight each criterion weighs. What is the basically the ratio between quality and price, and when it comes to contracting, let's say you were invited to sign a contract. Normally there is a flexibility with that. Even though they have their templates frozen and written in a stone, you can always contest them and ask if there could be amendments. And we just recently managed to change some stipulations in their agreements because it didn't fit us. So there is some degree of flexibility, and I don't think you need to know all the details. If you have any questions, just let me know. So this is the first tender that we won.
Old times.
And still present times.
I know, in Portugal, I know.
This is the outer envelope. What did we call this outer envelope? And we took it literally with IKEA bag by bus. We were in Brussels back then, and had it submitted because we didn't want to pay for post. And we had it stamped at the delivery room there. So this is a tender. Is there anything else?
I remember in Portugal, in my youth as engineer, we did the Tagus River trains.
Okay.
And the proposal were 45 folders. Okay.
Yes.
And it costed 400,000 euros. Just to give an idea.
Yes.
Okay.
And
to make the technical specifications, the staff engineering, the financial side, everything, it's quite a huge proposal. And it was
and all specifications,
hard copies always.
They state that they will not reimburse your preparations.
Yes.
So you also need to consider this when setting up the offer. If it took some considered time, you want to have this paid back in case you need. Is this the last slide, or?
This is the last slide, and I want to specify, because earlier I mentioned this expression of interest success story we had, and then we can better explain it. Essentially, there was this tender from Greece that they require some IT softwares. We have the expertise, the services, because they ask for a service, software as a service. So you essentially need to have your package and deliver it. But of course, they require the local partner. So how do you deal with this? We have a trusted partner in Greece, a management company, and individually we submitted the expression of interest. Both of us received the invitation to tender, and now we can make a joint tender. But what happens if it's just you making the invitation, making the expression of interest, and not the others? It happens what Robert did, that it's crazy if you think. I'll give you an example. You are a management company, okay? And you see a tender that is about providing audiovisual, software, and web development services. So you know how to manage project, you know how to boost your business and so on. You submit the expression of interest, so then you are the one eligible to submit a tender. You submit a tender and you subcontract to the IT company. But you have nothing. You have no servers. You have no developers, no designers, no nothing. But still, since it was just you filling a form, 5 minutes work, you are eligible to connect to someone else.
And others are not. They haven't done this.
I mean, if Microsoft didn't submit the expression of interest, they wouldn't be able to participate in. So it can really open a huge variety of businesses. Just this thing. If you have your own network, you know different variable typologies of partners. You only submit the expression of interest, and afterwards you can compete in the most different tenders you may imagine. And of course, you can ask, for example, Tenderio. We are eligible for this tender in Greece, in whatever. Do we have someone there? And you move forward. So sometimes it's just a matter of screening, to have someone there that screens and does this job. And with the weekly digest that we can send you, we can help you on this. Another small parenthesis I want to add.
Sorry.
Yes.
I just don't understand the strategy and the mentality about you propose something or you just answer for the expression of interest and the other company also, because we already met each other, so you could answer that and invite the company there to give support.
But only you can invite them maybe only as from the position of subcontractor, not as a partner.
Yeah.
But if they want to be partner, which is a stronger relationship, they are actually implementing it. They get more visibility.
So when they offer different expressions, they could after be partners?
Yes.
So they are invited by singular persons, singular companies, and then they can just
they make the join.
Because there is this hierarchy.
Make a join and okay.
There is hierarchy. At the bottom, you have a subcontractors
Yes.
who don't take any responsibility in a way. Then you have a partners, and then you have a coordinator. Okay. Coordinators talks to the contracting authority. So this is the ladder. And it was in this case it was interest of the Greek partner to be a partner, not a subcontractor.
Yeah, and I couldn't understand what was the. Okay. Now okay.
A small parenthesis is the core partners of Tenderio are not dealing just with tenders. I think our strongest field is the European financing. Robert has the company with the highest success rate of Slovakia. We have a management company that had a 100% success rate for Horizon 2020. LOBA in 2016 was the company with the highest awarded contract from European Union of Portugal. And in average, we have 3 out of 4 projects per year. So it can be an opportunity just not in the context of the tenders, but of European financing. So take this into consideration as well. It's still internationalization of companies. It fits the topic.
So if we can try to wrap up somehow some key takeaways from today's long day. There are money available for SMEs in Europe. Statistically speaking, the chances are high. It is not an easy and quick story. If you decide to dedicate the efforts and resources to introduce a new income stream through public tenders abroad, do it in a consistent way based on informed decisions. So avoid just try and fail. Try to learn from each step, and to go aiming towards the first winning, maybe small tender outside of your country. So first, we learned how to identify the right tender. The right tender meaning the one which has the highest rate of success. We also touched on how to build the partnership and how to maybe approach the partners and how to sell them the arguments in order to create a win-win scenario. We showed you, or at least my message to you is that once you have done first and second tender, the third and fourth and so on will be much easier and faster, simply because the procedure is very similar. It's just content changes. And the processes and the evaluation is pretty well defined. It's standard, and it is at least in EU arena and arena of UN and international organizations quite transparent. And the last thing is, again, I just stress that there are a lot of instruments, services available for you completely for free. Please use it in case you think that this is the path you would like to take. We invite you to check closer our website, and obviously we would like to hear from you either through a help desk or you know, using any contact information on our website. If you have any question, we would love to help you, because we know that when you come to us and we provide you with information that makes sense to you, that could be useful. We are also building, in a way, trustful relationship with you, with new partners. So this is what we essentially want. The Tenderio is a magnet for new collaborations, because maybe the primary goal is to win tender, but the more fruitful outcome is the side product, which is actually creation of new relationship, which will be maybe used 2 years later, 3 years later. But trying to connect dots as we go. So I would finish it here. If I may, we are here until 5 or whenever needed. Who wants to come and have a consultation with us, we are there for you. So thank you again very much. You were great today. Thank you.
Yeah, great participation.